The emergency room lights burned my eyes as I tried to sit up, but Jerome's hand pressed firmly on my shoulder, keeping me down. "Please, doctor, you have to help her," he said, his voice cracking with what sounded like genuine concern. "She fell down the stairs again. I keep telling her to be more careful." His fingers squeezed my shoulder hard enough to leave new bruises on top of the old ones, but the young doctor didn't notice. Nobody ever noticed. My name is Gladys Washington, and I'm 72 years old. For 43 years, I've been married to a man who the world sees as a pillar of our community. Jerome Washington, deacon at Greater Faith Baptist Church, retired postal worker, devoted husband who rushes his clumsy wife to the hospital every few weeks. But that squeeze on my shoulder was a warning. Keep your mouth shut, or it gets worse. The doctor, a tired-looking young man who couldn't have been older than my grandson, barely glanced at me. "Mrs. Washington, can you tell me what happened?" Jerome's grip tightened. "I already told you she fell. She's getting so forgetful these days. Sometimes I wonder if it's early dementia." He shook his head sadly, playing the part of the concerned husband perfectly. "Just this morning, she forgot she'd already taken her blood pressure medication and tried to take it again." That was a lie. I never forgot my medications. But I'd learned long ago that contradicting Jerome in public only made the private punishments worse. So I nodded, playing my part in this twisted performance we'd been doing for decades. "Yes, I fell," I whispered, my ribs screaming in protest with each word. Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. The examination was quick, routine. Another set of x-rays to add to my collection. Another prescription for pain medication that Jerome would hide from me. Another lecture about being more careful. But as the doctor left to process my discharge papers, something different happened. A nurse lingered behind, a black woman about my daughter's age, with natural hair wrapped in a colorful head wrap and kind eyes that seemed to see right through our charade. "Mr. Washington," she said, her voice professional but firm, "would you mind getting your wife something from the vending machine? She needs to take this medication with food, and our cafeteria is closed." Jerome hesitated. He never left me alone with medical staff if he could help it, but refusing would look suspicious. "Of course," he said, leaning down to kiss my forehead. To anyone watching, it looked tender. But his lips were cold, and he whispered, "Don't say anything stupid." The moment he disappeared down the hallway, the nurse moved closer, pulling the curtain around my bed for privacy. Her entire demeanor changed. "Mrs. Washington, my name is Angela Brooks. I've been a nurse for 15 years, and I know what abuse looks like." My heart hammered in my chest. "I don't know what you mean. You fell 3 weeks ago too, according to our records, and 6 weeks before that, and 2 months before that." She pulled out a tablet, showing me a pattern I knew all too well. "The injuries are consistent with physical abuse, not falls. The bruising patterns, the defensive wounds on your arms, the way your husband won't leave you alone with medical staff." Tears burned my eyes, but I'd learned not to cry. Crying made Jerome angrier. "You don't understand. He's a good man. Everyone knows he's a good man. Deacon Washington who drives the church van, who helps with the youth program, who beats his wife," Angela finished quietly. She pulled up a chair, sitting at my eye level. "Mrs. Washington, I grew up watching my mama go through the same thing. Every Sunday she'd powder over the bruises and sing in the church choir while my daddy sat in the deacon's row praising the Lord. She died when I was 17, internal bleeding from a fall. I became a nurse because I swore I'd never let another woman die in silence like she did." Something inside me cracked. 43 years of keeping secrets, of protecting Jerome's reputation, of believing this was my cross to bear. Even if what you're saying is true, what can I do? I'm 72 years old. I have nowhere to go. My daughter lives in California and she thinks her father walks on water. My son—" I trailed off. My son hadn't spoken to me in 5 years, not since Jerome convinced him that I was stealing money from the family business. Angela glanced toward the hallway, then back at me. "There's something else you need to know. When you came in unconscious, your husband was very specific about your treatment. He insisted we not run certain tests, said you couldn't afford them, that your insurance wouldn't cover them. But here's the thing. I checked. Your insurance would have covered everything. He didn't want us to find something." "Find what?" My voice came out as barely a whisper. "Evidence. Old fractures that never healed properly. Traumatic brain injury markers from repeated blows to the head. The kind of medical documentation that would hold up in court." She leaned closer. "But I ran the tests anyway. Dr. Kumar authorized them while you were unconscious, before your husband could object. We have everything documented now. Every broken bone, every concussion, every injury going back years." The room started spinning. "He'll kill me if he finds out." "Not if we protect you." Angela pulled out a business card, pressing it into my palm. "This is for a women's shelter that specializes in elderly abuse victims. They have lawyers, counselors, everything you need. But there's more." She paused, making sure she had my full attention. "We've been building a case. You're not the first woman Jerome has hurt." My blood turned to ice. "What do you mean?" "Your husband's first wife, Patricia. The church was told she died in a car accident 20 years ago, right? I pulled her medical records. She had a history of suspicious injuries, too. And the night she died? She'd been to this very emergency room 6 hours earlier with a concussion. Your husband signed her out against medical advice." The room tilted. Patricia. Sweet Patricia, who used to make the best sweet potato pie for church functions. Patricia, who always wore long sleeves even in summer. Patricia, who died on a clear night on a straight road, somehow losing control of her car and hitting a tree. "You're saying I'm saying there's a pattern. And I'm saying you don't have to be the next victim." Angela stood as we heard footsteps approaching. "There's a team of us here who've been documenting everything. Dr. Kumar is from a family of domestic violence survivors. The social worker, Marcus Thompson, his sister was killed by her husband. We see you, Mrs. Washington. We've been seeing you for months. We're ready to help when you're ready to leave." Jerome pushed through the curtain, holding a bag of vending machine chips and a warm soda. His eyes immediately went to Angela's proximity to my bed, suspicion flashing across his face. "What's going on here?" "Just explaining the medication schedule," Angela said smoothly, not missing a beat. "Your wife needs to take these antibiotics every 6 hours, with food. Make sure she finishes the entire course, even if she feels better." "I know how to take care of my wife," Jerome said, his jaw tight. "We've been married 43 years. "Of course." Angela's smile was professional, but her eyes met mine one last time. "Mrs. Washington, you have our number if you need anything. Any follow-up questions about your care? Anything at all." The ride home was silent except for the gospel station Jerome always played. Kirk Franklin's voice filled the car, singing about victory, while I clutched the business card hidden in my pocket. Jerome's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. "That nurse seemed awfully interested in you," he said finally, not looking at me. "She was just doing her job. Better be all she was doing." We pulled into our driveway. The house I'd paid for with 30 years of working as a school cafeteria manager looking like a prison in the dim streetlight. "Get inside. I need to have a word with you about embarrassing me at that hospital." I knew what a word meant, but for the first time in 43 years, I also knew something else. People were watching. People were documenting. People were ready to help. As I walked toward the front door, our neighbor, Mr. Cornelius, was sitting on his porch despite the late hour. "Evening, Mrs. Gladys," he called out. "You feeling all right? Saw the ambulance earlier." "She's fine," Jerome answered for me, his hand firm on my lower back, pushing me toward the door. But Mr. Cornelius stood up, all 6'4" of him, and walked to our fence. "I was asking Mrs. Gladys." The air went electric. In 43 years, no one had ever challenged Jerome's right to speak for me. Jerome's hand on my back turned into a fist, grabbing my shirt. "I said she's fine, Cornelius. Mind your business." "Gladys is my business. Been neighbors for 20 years. My late wife Josephine thought the world of her." Mr. Cornelius's eyes never left mine. "You need anything, Mrs. Gladys? Anything at all? You just holler." Jerome yanked me inside, slamming the door. Through the window I could see Mr. Cornelius still standing there, watching our house. His phone was in his hand, and he appeared to be texting someone. "That nosy nurse put ideas in your head, didn't she?" Jerome's voice was low, dangerous. "And now Cornelius thinks he's some kind of hero? You've been running your mouth." I didn't say anything. The slap came fast, knocking me into the wall. But as I steadied myself, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from an unknown number. "This is Angela. Cornelius is my uncle. He's been watching out for you. Your room at the shelter is ready whenever you are. We have lawyers on standby." Jerome grabbed for my phone, but I jerked away. "Who's texting you?" "The pharmacy. About the prescription." The lie came easier than I expected. He studied me for a long moment, then smiled that cold smile I'd learned to fear. "You know what? I think it's time we updated our wills. Make sure everything is in order. At your age, with your health problems, your clumsiness, accidents happen." The threat was clear. Patricia's face flashed in my mind. As Jerome headed upstairs, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a photo from Angela. Medical records with highlighted sections. Evidence of injuries. And at the bottom, a note. "The FBI is investigating Patricia's death. They want to talk to you." I looked up to find Jerome standing at the top of the stairs watching me. "Coming to bed, dear?" The endearment sounded like a threat. My phone rang. The caller ID showed the local FBI field office. Jerome started down the stairs, his face darkening. "Who's calling you at this hour?" The doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I could see 2 agents in FBI windbreakers. My phone buzzed one more time. "Angela. We know what he did to his first wife. Don't let him make you the second." The FBI agents didn't wait for me to answer. The taller one, a black woman with steel in her voice, called through the door. "Mrs. Washington, we know you're in there. This is Agent Robinson with the FBI. We need to speak with you about Patricia Washington's death." Jerome's hand clamped around my wrist, twisting hard enough to make me gasp. "Don't you dare open that door," he hissed. But his face had gone ashy, sweat beading on his forehead. In 43 years of marriage, I'd never seen Jerome afraid. Until now. "Mr. Washington," Agent Robinson continued, "we can do this the easy way or the hard way. We have a warrant." The door exploded inward before Jerome could respond. 3 agents swept in, weapons drawn but pointed down. Agent Robinson's eyes immediately went to Jerome's grip on my wrist. "Sir, step away from your wife. Now." "This is harassment." Jerome released me, switching instantly into his respectable deacon persona. "You can't just burst into our home. I want a lawyer." "You'll get one," the second agent. A younger white man with kind eyes said, "Mrs. Washington, are you hurt? Do you need medical attention?" "She's fine," Jerome started, but Agent Robinson cut him off with a look that could freeze hell. I asked Mrs. Washington. She moved closer to me, her voice gentling. "Ma'am, we're here about Patricia, but we're also here about you. Angela Brooks contacted us. We know about the pattern of injuries. We know about tonight." "Angela had no right." Jerome started toward me, but the male agent stepped between us. "Mr. Washington, I'm Agent Davies. You're going to come with me to the kitchen while Agent Robinson speaks with your wife. This isn't a request." For the first time in our marriage, I watched someone make Jerome do something he didn't want to do. Agent Davies didn't raise his voice, didn't threaten, just stood there with quiet authority until Jerome, muttering about lawsuits and harassment, followed him to the kitchen. Agent Robinson guided me to the couch, sitting across from me in Jerome's chair, something no one had ever dared do before. "Mrs. Washington, I'm going to be direct with you. We've been investigating your husband for 3 years. Patricia's death wasn't an accident." My hands started shaking. "How do you know?" "Her sister, Evelyn, came to us. She'd been suspicious for years but had no proof. Then she found Patricia's journals hidden in her mother's attic. Patricia documented everything: the abuse, the threats, and most importantly, the insurance policies." "Insurance policies?" Agent Robinson pulled out a tablet, showing me documents. "Your husband took out 3 separate life insurance policies on Patricia in the months before her death. Together, they totaled $2 million. He used that money to start his trucking business with his brother Raymond." Raymond, Jerome's younger brother who lived in a mansion in Buckhead, who drove a different luxury car every year, who always smirked at me at family gatherings like he knew something I didn't. "But that's not all," Agent Robinson continued. "Mrs. Washington, has your husband recently asked you to sign any documents, update any wills, change any insurance policies?" The room tilted. "Just last month. He said it was for tax purposes. Said we needed to update everything because of our age." "Do you have copies of what you signed?" "No, he handles all that. I just sign where he tells me." The words sounded pathetic even to my own ears. An educated woman, reduced to this. Agent Robinson's expression darkened. "We need to get you somewhere safe, tonight. Our investigation shows that Patricia started asking questions about their finances 2 weeks before she died. She'd found out about an affair." "An affair?" My voice cracked. "Perfect Deacon Jerome who preached about sanctity of marriage?" "With his brother's wife, Sheila." The floor seemed to drop away. Sheila, Raymond's wife, who always hugged Jerome a little too long at family gatherings. Sheila, who'd convinced me to sign over my power of attorney to Jerome last year when I had pneumonia. Sheila, who worked at the insurance company where Jerome got all our policies. From the kitchen, I heard Jerome's voice rising. "I want my lawyer! You can't keep me here!" Agent Robinson leaned forward. "Mrs. Washington, we believe Patricia discovered the affair and threatened to expose it. But more than that, she found out about the fraud. Your husband and his brother have been running an insurance fraud scheme for 20 years. Multiple victims. You're supposed to be next." "Multiple victims?" My voice sounded far away, like someone else was speaking. 3 elderly women from your church died in accidents over the past 2 decades. All of them were widows Jerome was helping with their finances. All of them had recently updated their wills and insurance policies. All of them left money to either Jerome or Raymond. Sister Catherine, who fell in her bathtub. Sister Ruby, who had that sudden heart attack. Sister Pearl, whose house caught fire. I remembered Jerome delivering eulogies at all their funerals, tears streaming down his face, talking about how he'd tried to help these poor lonely women. "We need you to help us," Agent Robinson said. "We need you to wear a wire, get him to admit—" "No!" The word exploded out of me. "No, I can't. You don't understand. He'll know. He always knows." "Mrs. Washington—" A crash came from the kitchen. Jerome burst through the doorway, Agent Davies right behind him. "Gladys, don't say another word. They're trying to turn you against me. 43 years of marriage and you're going to believe strangers?" "The evidence speaks for itself," Agent Robinson said, standing. "Mr. Washington, we're taking you in for questioning regarding the death of Patricia Washington and fraud charges related to 3 insurance policies." "You're arresting me? In my own home?" Jerome's mask finally slipped completely, rage distorting his features. "Gladys, you call Brother Raymond right now. Tell him to get the lawyer, you hear me? You do what I tell you!" But I couldn't move. 3 women from our church. Patricia. Almost me. Agent Davies cuffed Jerome while he ranted about persecution and racism and his rights. But as they led him toward the door, he turned back to me, and his expression made my blood freeze. Remember what happens to women who don't stand by their husbands, Gladys. Remember Patricia. It was a confession and a threat rolled into one. After they left, Agent Robinson stayed with me. We're going to place you in protective custody. Raymond and Sheila don't know we're on to them yet, but once Jerome's arrest hits the news. My phone rang. The caller ID showed my daughter, Denise, in California, at 1 a.m, her time. Mama? Her voice was frantic. Uncle Raymond just called me. He said Daddy's been arrested. He said you've lost your mind, that you're making up lies about Daddy. Denise, baby, it's not what... Uncle Raymond said you've been showing signs of dementia. He said you've been paranoid, making accusations. He's flying out tonight with Aunt Sheila to help. He said he has papers showing Daddy has power of attorney and that you need to be evaluated. My heart stopped. What papers? Medical forms. From some doctor saying you're not competent. Mama, what's going on? Uncle Raymond says if you don't cooperate, they'll have to put you in a facility for your own good. Agent Robinson grabbed the phone. Miss Washington? This is Agent Robinson with the FBI. Your uncle is currently under federal investigation. Do not sign anything he gives you. Do not meet with him without law enforcement present. I heard Denise gasp. FBI? Mama, what is happening? Your father killed his first wife, I said, the words tumbling out. And he was planning to kill me. Silence. Then, Mama, that's crazy. Daddy would never... I have proof, Agent Robinson interrupted. Your mother is in danger. We need to move her to a safe location tonight. I'm catching the next flight, Denise said. Mama, don't go anywhere with anyone until I get there. But even as she said it, headlights flooded the living room. Through the window, I saw Raymond's Escalade pulling into the driveway. Sheila was in the passenger seat, and in the back, I could see someone else. My blood ran cold as I recognized him. Dr. Hendricks, the psychiatrist who'd signed Jerome's insurance paperwork last month, claiming I'd been evaluated for competency. They're here, I whispered. Agent Robinson was already on her radio, calling for backup. Mrs. Washington, go to your bedroom and lock the door. Do not come out until I tell you. But Raymond was already at the door, using a key I didn't know he had. He walked in like he owned the place. Sheila and Dr. Hendricks behind him. Raymond was smaller than Jerome, but meaner, with eyes that had always reminded me of a snake's. Well, he said, seeing Agent Robinson. The FBI. Jerome said you'd manipulated Gladys into this nonsense. He pulled out a folder. I have legal documents here showing that Gladys Washington has been diagnosed with senile dementia and that Jerome Washington is her legal guardian. You're interfering with a medical intervention. Those documents are fraudulent, Agent Robinson said. Dr. Hendricks stepped forward, all false concern. I've been treating Mrs. Washington for 6 months. She's been showing clear signs of paranoid delusions, claiming her husband is trying to kill her, that there's some conspiracy. I've never seen you before in my life, I shouted from the hallway. See? Hendricks said sadly. She doesn't even remember our sessions. It's heartbreaking, really. The mind goes first, then they die in accidents, I finished, stepping fully into view. Like Patricia. Like Sister Catherine, Sister Ruby, Sister Pearl. Sheila's perfectly made-up face twitched, just for a second. But I saw it. Fear. You're sick, Gladys, Raymond said, but his voice was too loud, too forceful. We're here to help you. Jerome called us from jail, which is where you put him with your lies, and asked us to make sure you get the care you need. The care Patricia got? I asked. Raymond's mask slipped, just like Jerome's had. Careful, old woman. Dementia patients sometimes hurt themselves. Sometimes they take too much medication. Sometimes they fall downstairs. Sometimes they forget to turn off the stove. Agent Robinson stepped between us. Are you threatening a federal witness, Mr. Washington? I'm expressing concern for my sister-in-law's deteriorating condition." He turned to Dr. Hendricks. "Doctor, I think we need to expedite that emergency psychiatric hold we discussed." "You can't do that," Agent Robinson said. "Actually, we can." Sheila pulled out more papers. "We have a judge's order, signed 2 hours ago by Judge Morrison." Judge Morrison, who golfed with Raymond every Saturday, who'd been at Jerome and my anniversary party last year, who'd always complimented Jerome on having such a devoted wife. Agent Robinson looked at the papers, her jaw tightening. "These won't hold up. We'll fight this." "By all means," Raymond smiled. "But until you do, Gladys comes with us, unless you want to obstruct a court order." The backup agents arrived then, but Raymond just smiled wider. "Perfect. More witnesses to see that we're following legal procedures." My phone buzzed. "Angela. Don't go with them. Stall. Help is coming." But what help could come? They had papers. They had a doctor. They had a judge. "I need to pack some things," I said. "Sheila will help you," Raymond said. Sheila followed me to the bedroom, closing the door behind us. For a moment, her mask dropped completely. "You should have just kept quiet, Gladys. Signed the papers, taken the pills Jerome gave you, had a peaceful end. Now it's going to be messy." "You killed Patricia," I said. She laughed, cold and bitter. "Jerome killed Patricia. I just helped plan it. Just like Raymond helped plan what was supposed to happen to you. The perfect crime. The grieving widower inheriting everything, then sharing with his beloved family. Why? Money. It's always money. Do you know how much you're worth, Gladys? Your life insurance, the house, Jerome's business assets that are actually in your name for tax purposes? $3 million. That's $1 million each for Jerome, Raymond, and me." "Your own husband?" She laughed again. "Raymond doesn't care who I sleep with as long as the money keeps coming. We're partners, not lovers. Have been for 20 years. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Denise. "Mama, don't trust anyone. I've been calling Patricia's sister. She's been trying to reach you for years, but Jerome blocked her number on your phone. She has evidence. Real evidence." Sheila saw my expression change. She grabbed for my phone, but I threw it across the room. It smashed against the wall. "Doesn't matter," she said. "In an hour, you'll be in a psychiatric facility. In a week, you'll be so medicated you won't remember your own name. And in a month?" She shrugged. From outside the bedroom, we heard shouting. Agent Robinson's voice. "You can't take her against her will." Raymond's voice. "We have a court order. Stand aside or I'll have you arrested for obstruction." Sheila opened the bedroom door. "She's ready." But as they led me toward the front door, something unexpected happened. The street outside was full of people. Mr. Cornelius was there with what looked like half the neighborhood. Angela was there with other nurses from the hospital. And standing in front of them all was a woman I hadn't seen in 20 years. Evelyn, Patricia's sister, holding a box of journals and a video camera. "That's my sister's killer," she shouted, pointing at Jerome's brother. "And I have proof." The psychiatric facility smelled like bleach and despair. They'd drugged me within an hour of arrival, despite Agent Robinson's protests and the crowd outside. Raymond had used his connections to get me in through a back entrance, away from the cameras and witnesses. Now, 3 days later, I could barely remember my own name through the haze of medications they forced down my throat every 4 hours. "Mrs. Washington, time for your pills," the nurse said, a young man who never met my eyes. Behind him stood Dr. Hendricks, clipboard in hand, documenting my deteriorating condition. "I don't need those pills," I slurred, my tongue thick and heavy. "Paranoid delusions," Hendricks muttered, writing on his clipboard. "Patient continues to resist necessary treatment." But what Hendricks didn't know was that for 3 days, I'd been hiding the pills under my tongue, spitting them out later. Not all of them. Taking none would be too obvious, but enough to keep my mind from completely drowning. Evelyn had slipped me a note through my lawyer on day 1. "Stay strong. We're coming." The lawyer, Marcus Worthington, was the son of Sister Ruby, one of the women Jerome and Raymond had killed. He'd taken my case pro bono the moment he learned the truth about his mother's death. Young, brilliant, and angry, he was everything Raymond's expensive lawyers didn't expect. On the 4th day, Marcus arrived with a different judge, Judge Teresa Coleman from the State Superior Court, a black woman with eyes like thunder. Behind her came Agent Robinson, 2 federal marshals, and someone I didn't expect, my son Thomas, who I hadn't seen in 5 years. "Mama!" Thomas rushed to my bedside, tears streaming down his face. "I'm so sorry. I believed him. All these years, I believed Dad's lies about you." Judge Coleman's voice cut through the room like a blade. "Dr. Hendricks, you're under arrest for fraud, false imprisonment, and conspiracy to commit murder. Mrs. Washington, you're coming with us. This facility is now under federal investigation." Raymond's lawyers tried to block us at the door, papers flying, but Judge Coleman wasn't having it. "Counselor, your client filed these committal papers using forged documents and a compromised judge who, I should mention, was arrested this morning for taking bribes. Step aside before I hold you in contempt." The ride to the courthouse felt like emerging from a nightmare. Thomas held my hand the entire way, whispering apologies. "Denise showed me everything," he said. "Patricia's journals, the insurance documents, the pattern of deaths. Mama, how did I not see it?" "Your father was a master manipulator," I said, my voice getting stronger as the drugs wore off. "He turned you against me slowly, carefully, made you believe I was the problem." The courthouse was packed. The black community had turned out in force. Church members, neighbors, nurses from the hospital, even strangers who'd heard the story. In the front row sat Evelyn with Patricia's journals, Angela with medical records, and Mr. Cornelius with 40 years of observations written in neat handwriting. Jerome was already there, in an orange jumpsuit, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. Raymond sat at the defense table, his snake eyes darting between exits. Sheila was notably absent. She'd fled to Mexico the night I was taken, but FBI had caught her at the border. The prosecutor, a fierce woman named District Attorney Williams, started with Patricia's murder. Evelyn took the stand first, reading from her sister's journals. May 15th, 1999. Jerome hit me again today, this time because I asked about the insurance policies. He doesn't know I found the others, the ones he took out without telling me. 3 policies, $2 million. He thinks I'm stupid, but I know what he's planning. The courtroom gasped. Jerome's lawyer objected, but Judge Coleman overruled him. Marcus Worthington presented his mother's case next. Financial records showing Jerome and Raymond had access to her accounts. The suspicious timing of her death, just days after she'd updated her will. The contractor who testified that Raymond had asked him about making a bathroom floor slippery enough to cause an accident but not look deliberate. But the most damaging testimony came from someone unexpected. Sheila, arrested at the border, had made a deal. She appeared via video link from federal custody, and her words destroyed both brothers. "It was supposed to be simple," she said, no emotion in her voice. Jerome would identify vulnerable elderly women at church. Raymond would handle the legal documents through his connections. I'd process the insurance policies through my job. We'd been doing it for 20 years. Gladys was supposed to be the last one. The biggest score. $3 million would set us up for life. "And Patricia Washington?" the prosecutor asked. "She found out about the affair, but more importantly, she found our records." Jerome panicked. He gave her a concussion, then took her for a drive. He pushed her car off the road, made it look like an accident. I processed the insurance claim myself. Jerome shot to his feet. "You lying witch! You came on to me! You said we could run away together with the money!" The judge banged her gavel. "Mr. Washington, control yourself or you'll be removed." "Let him talk," I said suddenly, standing. Everyone turned to look at me. For 43 years, this man has controlled every word I spoke. Let him speak now. Let everyone hear who he really is." Jerome's face contorted with rage. "You were nothing when I married you. A cafeteria worker. I made you respectable. I gave you status in the church, in the community." "You gave me bruises," I said, my voice carrying through the silent courtroom. "You gave me fear. You gave me 43 years of terror. But you know what you didn't give me? Access to the bank statements." Raymond's face went white. I continued. "See, while you were documenting my supposed dementia, I was documenting you. Every transfer, every deposit, every insurance payout. Angela's uncle, Mr. Cornelius, he's quite handy with computers. We traced 20 years of murders, Jerome. 20 years. "You can't prove anything," Raymond shouted. "Actually, we can." Agent Robinson stood up in the gallery. "Based on Mrs. Washington's evidence and our investigation, we've identified 17 victims across 3 states. Your insurance fraud ring goes deeper than just these 4 women. You targeted elderly Black women specifically, thinking nobody would investigate too closely. You counted on racism and ageism to hide your crimes." The judge called for order as the courtroom erupted. When it quieted, she asked me to take the stand. For the first time in 43 years, I told my truth. Every beating, every threat, every humiliation. I showed the scars Jerome had given me. I described the night terrors, the PTSD, the suicide attempts he'd driven me to, then hidden from everyone. "Mrs. Washington," the prosecutor asked gently, "why didn't you leave?" "Where would I go? He isolated me from my family, turned my children against me, controlled every penny. He told me nobody would believe me. A respected deacon's word against mine. And he was right, until Angela believed me, until Evelyn believed me, until all these people believed me." I looked at the gallery, at the faces of my community. "He didn't count on the village," I said. "He didn't count on Black women looking out for each other. He didn't count on nurses who'd seen too much to stay quiet. He didn't count on neighbors who noticed patterns. He didn't count on us." The jury deliberated for only 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Murder, attempted murder, fraud, elder abuse, domestic violence. Jerome got life without parole. Raymond got 40 years. Dr. Hendricks got 20. Judge Morrison was disbarred and faced his own trial. As they led Jerome away, he turned to me one last time. "You'll be nothing without me." "I was everything despite you," I replied. 6 months later, I stood in my living room, really mine now, with new locks and no fear. The insurance money from the legitimate policies had been returned. The house was mine free and clear. But more importantly, I was free. Thomas and Denise were visiting, helping me redecorate. We'd painted over every wall, replaced every piece of furniture Jerome had chosen. The house felt like home for the first time. "Mama," Denise said, "there's someone here to see you." It was Angela, but she wasn't alone. Behind her stood 5 elderly Black women, all survivors of domestic violence. "Mrs. Gladys," Angela said, "these ladies heard your story. They want to share theirs. We're starting a support group at the church, the real church, not the one that protected Jerome. Pastor Coleman, Judge Coleman's sister, she's offering us space." I looked at these women, saw my own pain reflected in their eyes, but also my strength. "Come in," I said. "I'll make some tea." As we sat in my living room, sharing stories and tears and even laughter, I thought about Patricia. Her death had saved my life. Her sister's persistence had brought justice not just for her, but for all of us. Mr. Cornelius stopped by with groceries, as he did every week now. "Looking good, Mrs. Gladys," he said, and I knew he meant more than just my appearance. He meant my spirit, my freedom, my joy. That night, I stood in my bedroom, the room where Jerome had terrorized me for decades, and I wasn't afraid. On my nightstand sat Patricia's journal, which Evelyn had given me. The last entry, written the day she died, said, "If something happens to me, please protect Gladys. She's next." She'd tried to warn me, even facing her own death. I picked up my own journal and wrote, "Dear Patricia, you did protect me. Your words, your sister's love, and the courage you showed in documenting the truth. They all saved me. I'm 72 years old, and I'm finally free. I have my children back, my community around me, and years ahead that belong to me alone. Thank you." The next morning, I woke up without fear for the first time in 43 years. I made my own breakfast, chose my own clothes, and decided to visit Patricia's grave. Evelyn met me there, and we stood together, two women bound by loss, but also by triumph. "She would be so proud," Evelyn said. "She is," I replied, feeling Patricia's presence in the wind, in the sunshine, in the freedom that filled my lungs with each breath. As I drove home, I passed the psychiatric facility where they'd tried to disappear me. It was under new management now, the entire staff replaced after the investigation. The new director had asked me to speak to their staff about recognizing elder abuse. I'd said yes. My phone rang. It was Marcus Worthington. "Mrs. Gladys, I wanted you to know. We've identified 3 more victims in another state. 3 more elderly women whose deaths weren't accidents. The FBI wants to know if you'll help with the investigation." "Yes," I said without hesitation. "Every woman deserves justice. Every woman deserves to be believed." That evening, I hosted dinner for my support group. 7 women now, all survivors, all fighters. We called ourselves Patricia's Warriors. And we were working with the FBI to create a database of suspicious deaths, insurance fraud targeting elderly Black women, and domestic violence hidden behind church respectability. As we sat around my table, sharing food and fellowship, Sister Martha, our newest member, said, "My husband always told me nobody would believe a 78-year-old Black woman over a deacon." "They believe us now," I said, raising my glass of sweet tea in a toast. "To Patricia, to all the sisters we lost, and to all the sisters we'll save." We clinked glasses, and in that moment, I felt all the murdered women with us. Patricia, Sister Ruby, Sister Catherine, Sister Pearl, and countless others whose stories were just being discovered. Their spirits filled my home with strength and purpose. I was 72 years old. I'd survived 43 years of hell. But I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was thriving, fighting, and making sure no other woman would suffer in silence like we did. The news called me a hero, but I wasn't. I was just a woman who finally found her voice when someone finally listened. The real heroes were Angela, who believed me, Evelyn, who never gave up, Mr. Cornelius, who watched and waited, Marcus, who sought justice for his mother, and every person who stood up and said, "This is wrong." Jerome was wrong about one thing. I wasn't nothing without him. I was nothing with him. Without him, I was everything I was meant to be. That's all for today's story. If this touched your heart, please subscribe and share your own experiences below. We're all in this together.